There's a big energy surfacing on the planet right now, and it's called grief. Not everyone's going to feel it, but I'll share with you who is feeling it, why they're feeling it, what to do with it, and of course, why it's surfacing. So let's talk about it. Have you felt the grief? Because there is a collective purification going on, and it's a very specific one. It's to do with grief. Grief is a sense of loss. It's a sense of sorrow, and of course, it's a sadness. But as you know, when somebody passes away from your life, for example, grief happens in stages and it shows up weird because emotions never make sense. So please don't look for your emotions to make sense. Grief can show up as anger. Grief can show up as tears out of nowhere. Grief can show up as a depressive state. I don't want anyone near me. What's a futility? What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of it all? Grief shows itself in many different ways. Why is it on the surface right now? Is it new? That's a great question. Is this new? No, it's not. It's just on the surface. Where was it before it was on the surface? It was buried in the subconscious, which is where 90%, if not more, that's a big number, take it in. 90%, if not more, of what you feel is under the surface. So we wonder why we experience anxieties or panic attacks or depression. It's the 90% under the surface. We just see the top 10%. And then we spend so much time in resistance to that top 10% of the emotional repertoire that we can connect with. Now imagine going to gym. You got weights in your hand. Okay, you're going to gym. There you are. You got your weights and you put them down and you leave the gym. You're not going to take the weights in your car with you. You're not going to take the weights while you're sleeping. You're not going to take the weights 24/7, 365 days of the year. You're not going to be doing your weights because you understand. Weight training means pick up, put down. Picking up is good because it makes you stronger, right? It builds resilience. But guess what, guys? Have you noticed something? Have you seen this? That we are as tough as bloody leather. Like nails, tough as nails on the external, on the internal, which means the emotional self, the inner self. We're as weak, as paper. So that's because we've lost our resilience. And that what we see as the tough as nails, the hard as leather kind of thing, what that is pushing against life, resistance. Gives us a hardness, right? It's pushing against the emotions that we feel. It's denying them. It's avoiding them. And analysis is part of that process. To release an emotion, we have to feel an emotion. I have an online community because I'm so passionate about teaching people how to deal with emotions, because we weren't taught this. In the world out there, we were taught to analyze and suppress and avoid and resist and deny, and we called it sanity. That insanity, false matrix, everything was inverted, is what we called normal, sane ways of dealing with ourselves, justifying everything instead of feeling everything. So we just shove. No wonder 90% plus of our emotional repertoire sits underneath the surface, where it controls us and creates reality on our behalf. Thank you very much. Did you know that? The top 10% is us, the conscious brain or the conscious being, trying to create reality, forgetting that 90% emits an energy all the time. Even when you sleep, you're so creative. You don't only create when you go, okay, now I'm going to consciously manifest something. No, you're constantly, unconsciously creating reality with that 90%. So the grief that's cleansing at the moment is a gift. And I know it never feels that way, but it is a gift. Why is not everybody feeling it? Because not everybody elected to. As light workers, the call came out to us, and the call was, we need higher frequency on the planet, guys. And in order to get the higher frequency on the planet, and by the way, the call that I'm talking about, if you ask where does it come from, it comes from God and the soul's answer. And the souls go, yeah, we do need higher frequency on the planet, which equates to more joy. How do we get more joy? into our everyday lives. Look around you. Just walk in the mall. Look at people. It's the anomaly to see people killing themselves, laughing, tripping over each other in hysterics. I mean, that's maybe what drunk people do. Do we see normal, average, ordinary, everyday people just laughing, genuinely belly laughing? We tend not to. We tend to see a seriousness. We tend to see that hardness. We tend to see the nails and the leather, but we don't see the joy. We don't see the exuberance because, of course, humanity's lost that because we've gone into survival mode. So the grief is the space. The cleansing of the grief is the making space for the joy. We can't just go into joy. There we go. Here's me being joyful. If we're holding grief, which I guarantee you, every human being alive is holding an unconscious grief that they can't even imagine or quantify or connect with at the linear level. Grief from the collective. We're in the collective soup. We feel it. We breathe it in every single day. I've paused the video really quickly because I spoke about the collective grief and didn't realize that I hadn't gone into what the collective grief is, but it's actually super important. So the collective grief, it is a realization of our ascension. It's the realization that we're letting go of the false self. It's the realization that we have to let go of the story of who we thought we were, the false self. As much as the false self was the root of misery, was the part of ourselves connected to the false matrix, the false self purging, leaving, releasing is a big part of that grief story. The collective grief also holds memories of Atlantis, memories of the loss of other planets like Marduk. That's a planet in our solar system that was blown up. Tiamut is another one that was blown up. Lyra, another one. Many galactic wars took place. There is deep grief from the ancestral line, from eons of time that we hold. And it surfaces now because we're coming to the ascension point. So number one, we need more frequency. We need higher frequency on the planet. So we want more joy. So therefore, we've got to purge more grief. Okay. But another reason why that grief is coming up is because we are remembering the last ascension cycle. And there was a lot of grief because Atlantis went down. So we looked at that and we said, we lost, right? And there's another sense of loss that we're holding. And the sense of loss that many light workers are holding is we should have done it by now. We should have ascended by now. What are we still doing here? What are we still doing? This doesn't make sense. This is an insanity. So they feel lost, or they feel like they have lost. And loss and grief is exactly what we're cleansing so that we can carry on, so that we can not just walk each other home, but celebrate the journey as we walk each other home, that we can laugh each other home, that we can smile each other home. Just smiling at another light worker and beaming your heart smile, beaming your peace, beaming all of that, bringing more light, bringing more joy to the planet. Gotta purge the grief. So what do you do? If I'm saying to you, you've got to allow, what do you do? Yes, I teach this level of work in my online community because, this is my passion, is really getting to walk the journey with you guys into the cleansing. By the way, if you're a member of my online community, go into the Plasma Live Call library, type in the word emotions. There are so many videos that are going to come up, and many of them are master classes in learning how to be the alchemist, because that's what an alchemist does. An alchemist transforms, doesn't reject, doesn't deny, doesn't push away the emotion, transforms the emotion. So allow, in one word. If you ask me the question, Kerry, what do I do with the grief? Where do I put it? Don't put it anywhere. It's already there. Acknowledge that it is. And so many people are so afraid of just that step because they've been brainwashed into believing that if you acknowledge something, you're going to create more of it. You're going to condone it. I've spoken about this many, many times, how the spiritual community was infiltrated, how the spiritual teachings were infiltrated to keep the spiritual community, the light workers, the star seeds, in low frequency. And the best way to stay low frequency is take that weight and lift it every single minute of every single day. And then don't ever put it down. Just keep it there, right? That's not going to build you. That's going to break you. That's not going to raise your frequency. That's going to drop your frequency because you are permanently pushing against emotions. You are permanently avoiding something. When you learn that emotions aren't bigger than you, when you learn that it is your right, responsibility, duty to alchemize the emotions, then you get a different perspective on what your power actually is and what you're meant to do with these emotions. So cleansing the grief, purifying the grief. And if you're one of those light workers who is experiencing grief right now, then you are one of the light workers who has said, yeah, baby, I will do it. I will bring higher frequency in, then be prepared for the joy. Okay, I'm going to share a little story with you. So this was a couple years ago. We had this friend, they've since moved overseas. We live in a little seaside town, and there's this little fruit and veg shop. And Bryant, my husband, Bryant and I at the fruit and veg shop. Bryant is hilarious. The dude he doesn't mean to be funny. He is just so, since we met, he's been making me laugh. So this is like, who knows how many years we've been married. Maybe it's 12 years or something. He makes me laugh so much. So we're crossing the road. Little do we know, because I couldn't even see out my eyes there. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard. And we're trying to cross the road, and I'm holding on to Brian, but I've half collapsed. We're walking across the road. And I mean, it must have been a sight, right? There I am. Can't even walk myself over the road. I'm half crying. I'm half bent over. He's trying to drag me over the road. And the more this is happening, the more I'm laughing. Don't even ask me what we were laughing at. I never know what we're laughing at. It's just every moment there's joy in every moment of our lives, even when there's sorrow, even when there's sadness, even when there's heartbreak, even when there's anger, even when there's injustice. There's a backdrop in our lives that is more joy. Those of you who've really walked an honest twin flame journey, and I talk about an honest twin flame journey because so many people fantasize the illusory twin flame, like they'll call pretty much any relationship just because it's more intense, because they feel emotions more intensely. So then they go, oh, this must be a twin flame journey. That's not necessarily the case. A true twin flame journey is joyful. A lot of people say, oh, I'm in a twin flame journey and it's karmic. No, it can't be, because then it's not a twin flame journey. It's a karmic relationship. Or they'll say, I'm in a twin flame journey because we're always fighting. No. There is so much joy and lightness that comes up in a true sacred union. So there we are, crossing the road. Kerry's collapsing. Our friend's driving past. We're at a pedestrian crossing, actually. The friend stops to let us pass. Obviously, he's waving. We don't see him. A couple days later, he says, what were you guys laughing at? And we go, when? And he says, at the fruit and veg shop, I saw you. And we were like, oh my gosh, so sorry. I never really see anyone. Most of the time, I don't know where my eyes are at. I'm just in another world as I walk through life. And I said to him, I'm really sorry, didn't mean to ignore you. He says, no, I could see you couldn't see me. He said, but what do you guys laugh at? He said, this is not the first time that I've seen you walking around town and the two of you are just in hysterics with each other. And he said these exact words. He said, that's not normal, guys. And I was kind of sad. But shouldn't it be? Shouldn't living in that childlike wonderment, shouldn't that be our normal? Isn't that what we're here to do? Don't you have, I'm sure you guys, let me know in the comments, don't you have that in your life? The joy that doesn't make sense, the irrepressible happiness inside of you, the feeling like no matter what, I'm okay. That's what true joy gives you. And yes, you can have moments of depression or anger or whatever else. That's all perfectly allowed. But to get that backdrop feeling, the undercurrent to your life, to get that into higher frequency allows you to discharge all those surface level emotions so quickly and so easily. You want to know more about twin flames, don't you? Because I've just been speaking about it. Okay, let me link the twin flame video that I did. I did it a little while ago, but go ahead. There it is, from my heart. All the way to yours. I do hope you feel it. So much love, everyone. Bye-bye for now.